Live on there.
All right, man.
All right. Headphones on. Here we go. You ready?
I'm ready.
I feel like I've got to wake up.
I left my monster out there. I should have brought it in so you can sip on it too.
I also have waters down there.
Okay.
Water, just LaCroix water or whatever, but...
You want it to be La Croix.
La Croix. Hello, everyone. We're back. Another episode of the CrazyFaceUno podcast. I've, as always, Mr. Chancy Poo is in the studio with us, and our guest today, the man, Eric Richardson.
What's up, man? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Glad you're here, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. So, Eric, I'm going to give you just a rundown. So, Eric is, he's a teacher. He works at the school that I work at currently, still.
You worked in my room for a year?
Yeah, I worked in your room for a year. So, worked in special education. You're a big movie buff.
Yes.
You are a big Minnesota sports fan.
I am. Indeed. Sporting on my gear today.
Yep. Got your Twins gear going. All right. Twins are on a hot streak right now. Can't believe it.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I could be excited about my favorite team.
I know.
If you get me talking about the Twins, I probably won't stop.
You're a musician. You're a drumline coach. Is that what you call it? Or
I think it's drumline instructor. I think
instructor.
It's kind of technically kind of the
There we
term,
go.
but it's the same as coaching. It's extracurricular coaching kind of thing.
Yeah.
Things like that.
I was looking on social media, your stuff, and it looks like you like to travel. You've done more traveling than I think I know.
Yeah.
So we should get into that eventually.
We definitely talk about that.
Are you one of 4 kids?
Yes.
So you have a sister. That's the one I haven't met.
Yeah, I have an older sister.
Okay.
That's the one you haven't met. You've met my twin brother.
I started to write it down that you were one of 3, and I was like, wait a second, I know he has a sister because she just had a baby, correct?
Yep. I get the pleasure of being asked to be godfather to little. Her name is Lenora. We call her Little Lenny. She's a beautiful little girl.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It is.
Well, congratulations on being the godfather to little
for her,
Lenny.
Yeah,
That's
I
cute.
think for her it was an easy choice.
Yeah. Duh.
Yeah. No kidding.
So for everybody out there, we are currently. So this is a very interesting setup I've got going on here, but we're recording this as well, video recording this podcast, and I'm going to upload that onto YouTube as well. I have a bunch of equipment, so like camera equipment and adapting things for.
Is that the technical term?
Yeah, that's the real technical term, let me tell you. For my phone. So it'll have a stand, got some different lenses, so I can get some different angle, different wide angle lenses, whatever. Yeah, lighting. I got a mic for the phone. I've invested into that now. So you're gonna have the pleasure to listen via your podcasting streams. Eric pointed out to me, I had said that it was on Spotify, which it will be. Hopefully they can move that process along a little bit.
Yeah,
I thought it
checked
had been already up.
No, I checked again this morning.
Yeah,
last
I did
night.
too.
It still wasn't up there.
So it's slowly, we're on all the other ones. There's a bunch of them that are apparently pretty popular, but I've never heard of them. So, but I'm on those too. And then we've got, we're on some of the other, popular ones. So hopefully Spotify will get that things released and put that up there soon.
Hopefully.
But
it'd be good to see you on there.
Yeah.
I found you on SoundCloud pretty easily, so.
Yeah. And that's what my website runs through.
Yeah.
And then everything else kind of pulls from Podbean, which is my hosting platform that I use, and it's what we're recording on right now.
Never even heard of Podbean.
I know, I had not either, but that was one of the recommended top, like.
Yeah. It seems like you've done a ton of research into like just every single facet of what it is that you're trying to do, and like the media platform aspect seems like the most daunting one to me. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. I mean, all of it. Just at the moment, it's just interesting. You know, you hear people talk about like a startup, and I wouldn't necessarily go as far as to say this is a startup, but there's elements to that probably for sure.
Yeah.
And people wearing all the hats, and you know, you don't really think about it until you like get into it, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm doing a podcast. I'm everything. If I ship a mug, like I have to figure out all those shipping things. So you know, it's one of those things where I knew that the website that I have has programs for shipping and everything. So when people would buy a mug, thanks Eric, you bought a mug.
I did buy one.
But when people bought a mug, the first one that somebody bought, I was like, oh crap, I got to figure this out, you know? So then you like jump into it. It's not that it wasn't a difficult thing, but it's just something that takes time to like, okay, I need to download this. You didn't know you had to do it
until you encountered the situation.
Yeah. Oh, this is how this process works.
Right.
You know?
Well, that's learning any type of thing that you're going to do. I mean, we'll get into teaching too, but that's or coaching.
Yeah.
It's you know, denial and error, trial and error.
Yeah, it really is sometimes. And here we go. I gotta like plug Invisible Children at least once in every podcast. But one of the things we always had at Invisible Children was we build the plane as we fly it. You know, it's just you're just building that plane in the air. Like,
well, especially when you have no experience.
Yeah.
In what it is that you're trying to tackle. I'm not saying that you're not tech savvy or don't know what you're doing, because you helped build the startup too, didn't you?
Yeah.
That you worked for.
Well, no. They were established, but it was young. I mean, it was a very like younger company, you know, very smaller group of people. I mean, it wasn't a huge company, you know, but a lot of really hardworking, smart, intelligent people.
Well, it just brings me back to complimenting you again on I think it's awesome that you're doing what you're doing. The fact that you're kind of tackling and wearing all those hats that you mentioned.
Yeah,
you know, it's awesome.
It's fun. It's like
you can see that you're passionate about it, and you can see that I can see the energy from you.
Yeah,
you and I know each other pretty well. We got to know each other very well, and when you're excited about something, you have a different way you carry yourself, and you could definitely see that with what you're doing, with everything in here, and that's cool to see.
You had asked me when we first came in here. We were just talking about you had listened to several of the podcasts, and the first one. And you had brought up the comment that I had not explained my name or the brand name, CrazyFaceUno.
Because I listened to it, and I remember Josh, who's on the podcast, him and I were heading out to do an office trivia night, and we were talking about it. And he had just bought a mug, and I was about to buy a mug, and I asked him if you had explained the name. He's like, oh, he talks about that in his first video. And I watched the first video. You didn't address it. So
I didn't say curious. The name specifically.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about that now. So when I was in college, my nickname was Crazy Face. So the first week I played soccer, and the first week, like our preseason training, you know, like our 2 days and stuff, one of the English guys on the team, we were like on the bus, we were going he was from England, and he was like, man, you have a crazy face. Like I just made some weird face or something, and he like made this offhanded comment, and he's like, that's what we're gonna call you, Crazy Face. And then he like yelled back to the bus, you know, the back of the bus or whatever, and told somebody that this is what we're gonna call me, and the rest is history.
And there were worse things to be called. Crazy Face.
Yeah, there are worse. For sure. So that's how the nickname Crazy Face came about. And then the Uno part, or or one, like.
Right.
So I don't know. You could go with like 1,000 different directions with,
what was the one that
the
you
Uno. With? Well, so the only reason that part existed, because like when you have apps or your games that you play, you always have to create like a username or a screen name, right? And so I was just like, I don't know. Like I hated those questions. It's like it felt like such a part of you, you know.
Right.
So I was like Crazy Face, but Crazy Face was always taken. And I hate like putting numbers after it. I just personally don't like that.
Well, because you have
So I wrote a number, Uno, 1.
Yeah.
Right? But it's also like, you know, when it comes up, like, you were defeated by Crazy Face, like, or, whatever. Like, so I don't know. You could go with the different directions with
that
that.
makes sense.
But the inspiration, I guess, with the name, or like one of the things that's always held me back is like not knowing what to call something like this. Like this whole project, it's always been something like the bits and pieces. Like I think podcasts would be fun to do, right?
Right.
But like, what do I do? Like what is it, right?
Yeah.
Do I want it to just be a singular solo thing? Do I want it to, one of my like missions in life, I guess, in some ways has been, I just want to help people. And so like you look at my track record with different jobs and different things I've done, it's like
very service related.
Yeah, they're all like service
in
related.
service of others.
Because like that's like just something that I want to do. I think it's having purpose, the why behind what you're doing, and
right.
Like your job. I just think it like adds another element, and it makes it more than just a job. And so like just kind of combining those things, I've always like wanted to, I don't know, do something like this. I think I watch these videos online that, some of the ones that Jack Hartman videos and like, and some of these that we see at school, and I'm like, dude, like, I don't know how to edit,
right.
but I can figure it out. Like, they're not doing anything too complicated over here,
right?
But simple things like that too.
Right. Well, we've talked about Jack Hartman, and like, I think our buddy Trevor always makes the jokes that like us as a group could do what Jack Hartman does. We have enough people that like
you just have to
write
commit
music.
to it.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the things I was going to talk about. Like, it's really awesome that you're doing this, because how often do you see people that say, "I want to do this, I want to do that"?
Yeah.
Like my buddy was like, "Hey, let's start a podcast." I'm like, yeah, that sounds really fun. Like that whole like what if scenario, like talking about like winning the lottery or a scratch off ticket. Everyone's always excited about what could happen, but they don't actually sit down and do it. And the fact that you're actually like committing yourself to it and you can see the product, that's cool and that's exciting, especially when it has like the purpose that it does. I think that adds an even more
and that's been morphing, like
it.
it's really been evolving. Like when I first I was like, okay, so here's what the other one little piece of component that was like an inspiration, Mr. Beast. So I think I've brought him up to you. I've started telling people because he's been an inspiration to me of like some of the things. And I think, flattery, I'm not, he's got this model that's very appealing to me that like is in some ways an inspiration to what we're doing. It's definitely, there's a backbone of what CrazyFaceUno is that I'm like grabbing a few pieces of his model, right? Like he's got the merchandise that kind of fuels his thing. Yeah. My entry level is mugs, because I can go to Goodwill and I can buy a mug for $1, $2. I can sell them under the umbrella of, hey, we're doing good. We're going to use this for this, right? And yes, like I've addressed this before, like legitimately, I think that the mugs, I think it's fun and it's a great entry level. There is an element of people being like, I don't need a mug, like. Yeah,
but it's a mug. Like,
right.
Can you have too many mugs? I don't think so. I mean, it's a mug.
Yeah.
Plus the one I bought, like I bought it for the novelty of it. It's a stinking cat. I mean, it's a ridiculous.
You got one of the best ones.
It's a ridiculous looking mug. But
yeah.
But you told me because my shipping was great because it was hand delivered.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But one of the great things that you mentioned when you dropped the mug off is like, and I think it was kind of the reason I picked it without thinking too much about it, was the novelty of it. Like, let's say someone just asks about it, and now I have a story or I have something about the mug that I can share.
Right.
That's not just, look at this stupid cat mug.
Yeah.
It's not stupid. It's a great mug.
No, but like, and that's exactly, like, that's the kind of good I think that people can rally behind.
Definitely.
It's not that they will, but they can. You can get behind. Just donating, like giving. If I was to ask you, hey, will you give me $12 so I can do something good with it?
If I was there, I'd probably say yes.
You'd probably say yes.
Yeah.
But you're also a special individual that just would say yes because you're a good guy. But like most people are gonna be like, yeah, what are you gonna do with it? You know what I mean? Like there's gonna be like, and I'm the same way. It's just different when you just straight out ask for money. So like it's like giving a service, right? So like, man, yes, you know where the money's going, you know the direction that somebody wants to use with it, so you can buy a mug and you get something in return. It's like, hey, it's like an exchange of services, right? It's like
Well, and
economy.
It's more like, to me, I think it's more about like the reminder that you did something good.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about it too. It's just like, because I have no problem. I would have given you $12 to $15 for the cause. Like if that was something, on your page and I was following it, and I would consider doing it. The mug, I don't know more or less if it would have an effect on a normal person that's outside of this, like if they would decide to do it or not. But it's there when you see it, you're reminded of doing something good. Because how often have you donated something and then just kind of forgotten about it? Unless it's been brought up in a conversation, which is much, much less, frequent or common to happen than looking at a mug and being like, I did something good,
Right.
And
well, and it just and I think that's a good point, because that's the point, kind of creating the mission statement of CrazyFaceUno has been an evolution as well, kind of like just kind of finding the way of like, what is it that I want, how do I want to people to read and visually, like as they're reading, know what with one line what CrazyFaceUno is,
right.
And so this is from this point forward, and one of my checklist to-do list is to make sure that all the platforms have the same message, and same same thing,
like a banner, or just like a service
mission statement.
Yeah,
or like description, when you're asked to describe what is CrazyFaceUno,
and even though it's
the
like
one-liner, you just
need
need one line. And so here's what it is: it's inspiring others to do good and make a difference in their local and global communities,
right, while being entertained.
But that's like a byproduct of like the entertainment is how, and that's like how, we've talked about it a little bit on here, but like that's how I want to see things morph, is like, you can buy a mug, you can buy merchandise that's going to go towards fueling the things that we do.
Well, and if you enjoy the podcast too, that's something that you're going to hear about pretty frequently. I would assume, because whoever comes on, hopefully, you're able to at least talk about what you're doing currently with CrazyFaceUno, and like what's, like I haven't asked, I saw you did the mugs, and that was specifically for your friend.
I just did this one campaign, so like the mugs are still like they're still on this.
Right.
But
I was gonna say, have you moved on to another project yet, or is it?
I have actually. Thank you for asking. Yesterday,
this was not planned. This is not a plug. This is my genuine curiosity.
I was getting to it, and you got to it. So one direction that I'm kind of exploring into, which will be interesting. We'll see how this goes. But is that I have a digital download for sale. I just got it up on the store yesterday, and I haven't promoted it, but I will be, like, on the social media pages and whatnot. So here's what you can buy: a digital download, right? Like a lot of people, like you can buy like workout plans or whatever, these different types of things, right?
It's like a document?
Yes.
Okay. So
this is what you're buying is a document, but here's what it is, right? So it's under the label on the website of podcast games.
Okay.
So I want to engage people. I want to give people an opportunity to, one, you're buying something, you're funding doing good and making a difference, and our ability here at CrazyFaceUno, which involves me and my wife and other people, friends that I bring in to help me do these different things.
Right.
But you're allowing us to just kind of, do good and to make videos and make content that's going to be entertaining, that will give back to the community and inspire others to, do good and make a difference. So this is what it is. It's called Words and Phrases. So for $10, you can buy this digital download called Words and Phrases. And what this does is it gives you the opportunity to message me a word or a phrase that I have to integrate into the podcast.
Oh, there you go.
So it could be whatever, Obviously, you're keeping it like, you're not going to be vulgar. You can't be like, we can't be too crazy and wild.
I mean, if they want to buy it for $10 and send you vulgar things for you not to say on air, that's fine.
Yeah, you can have me say not things to say. That could be fun too, right? Like, we could see how this evolves.
You can't say the word through your entire podcast.
See? Yeah. I do try. I have other words that I say. I try to avoid the word
yeah.
So like a word or a phrase. So you could go.
I would say, if I was to do this for you, I'd say, quick, do a barrel roll.
Yeah, see, right? And then I have to integrate that into either it's like me telling a story and I'm like in the middle of the story, I have to say, and then he said, quick, do a barrel roll. and you know, whatever. So like that's the kind of thing. I think it'll be fun. It'll be kind of this little piece.
I think it's a great idea. The barrel roll, that was a movie factoid.
Yeah.
This is from the first Transformers movie. Remember when that came out in 2007?
The first one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2007, everyone was super excited about it, and they had this contest. And I don't know, it kind of reminds me of it, but they have a contest where people could write in a line of dialogue, and they would vote on it. And whichever one won would be put into the actual movie said by Peter Cullen, who voices Optimus Prime.
That's really fun.
And the first one that was dominating was quick, do a barrel roll. And can you just imagine the first live action Transformers like Peter Cullen, quick, do a barrel roll. You're like, how funny that would be. And it was crushing in the polls.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like a week before it was supposed to be up, it got taken down. And so everyone was pissed because the one that actually won was freedom is the right of all sentient beings, which is used in the movie.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's a fun little movie fact for you.
That's funny.
I thought it was hilarious. Like,
that's awesome. Did you know that the Justin Bieber documentary by John Chu?
I hadn't seen it, but
did you know that he did a little like same type of deal where they did a competition, like you submit your video to this one, like you singing or like create a video of like a music video type deal of this specific song,
right?
And they'd pick one and it'd be in like the outtakes of the movie or like the end of the movie.
I love that kind of stuff, and it's like moving back to CrazyFaceUno. It's like exactly kind of like what you're doing. Like you could send in something funny.
Yeah, I would love that.
You have to work into a story. I think it's a great idea.
I've got one. Here's one of my notes. So like I'm continually like. Create a giveaway, like a competition for a gift. So everyone who makes a video asking people to follow or like, or everybody that makes a video saying like, this is what I did, like doing something good, right? Like I take a picture and like make a caption and you just go into a drawing for, you know, something. There's another company called Cotopaxi. They're like a llama. They use llamas. I know my wife is the one. She's obsessed with llamas and she's the one that's found this. But so, yeah, this is actually, they have a thing called Questival. This is also their koozie right here.
Very nice.
Questival. Make sure the people on the video can see it.
Can the microphone pick up chance?
They can sometimes, yeah. At least I can always hear it. I just don't know if you know, like sometimes you're like, what is that sound? It's probably him.
Chance snoring. Just a happy little puppy down there.
He is a snorer. Sometimes he is a snorer. Yeah, so they actually have shirts that are like sweatshirts and shirts that say "Do Good" on them.
Oh, cool.
And I think it'd be cool to like buy from them. Like whoever wins gets, you know, a gift card for Cotopaxi or what, you know, whatever it is. So you can buy like something that says "Do Good" or like one of their products that.
Is merchandising something that is coming for CrazyFaceUno eventually?
Eventually, yeah. I just actually
another facet of, you know.
Yeah.
How do you go about that?
Right now, I just bought 50 stickers. With like the that picture that's on everything. It just says CrazyFaceUno.com.
How did you? Yeah.
It's a picture from Thailand when Dana and I were on our honeymoon last year.
And what, did you just run it through
it's just through an app that turns it into like a cartoon is what I was like
wanting.
It's a
really cool picture.
Yeah, and it just, I like came across that one and it was like smiling and I thought it would look cool like with all the different like background stuff in that font.
It turns out that
it turned out really well, yeah.
I wonder if you could make a t-shirt with CrazyFaceUno with that like pattern on there. That would be really cool.
Yeah, so
I don't need your face on it.
I just Google. Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, that's the part that's like the weird part a little bit.
Your
like,
face.
At some point, when I have a little more money to invest into it, I'd like to have a graphic designer just like design a logo, you know, like CF with the 1 behind it, or I don't know, something like you could go a million different directions, like with CrazyFaceUno, CrazyFace. Like there's some fonts that I like. The stickers will have like 2 different fonts. Like one's the website down the side where I'm looking at it, and the other one's just like a kind of a cursive, but it's not. It's just like a fancy little font that says CrazyFaceUno.com on it.
We're millennials. We don't know what cursive is anymore.
I know. Yeah. Right. Jeez, it's gone. But yeah, I don't know. Like something like that. Obviously, mugs would probably be one of the next things I'm going to.
Like your mugs with CrazyFace on it.
But haven't really got to that point. Since I sell mugs, I think I should probably have one with like CrazyFaceUno.
Actually, your thing on there. Yeah. Well, because I wonder, like, when you start to get to that stuff, like, if there's a company that you could go through that.
So
It's
shirts
like specifically, because I know there's a bunch of
Shirts
like
would be. Here's what I would like
know.
to do with shirts is I would like to. I just Googled last night actually. I actually have some experience doing my own
screen press,
like screen print. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like you can buy kits for $300, you know, online or whatever, to kind of entry level kits to do. Your
well, and that
own.
way you only have to go out and you have to just get like plain old T-shirts, right?
Yeah. So you buy your T-shirts. So that would be the direction I would probably go. I just think it'd
Versus
be more
like
fun to
going through like a third party vendor.
Yeah, yeah. I just think it'll be cheaper, so more money allotted to it, at least in the beginning. You know.
Yeah, well,
going that direction.
But you know, like the initial
The
investment
entry
is more,
investment,
but then again, I think in the long run, that'd be more
But I could
money that
change
you
it
could
up.
donate. Because that would be the goal, right? Of your merchandising is another way to
give
create
back,
funds
yeah.
to give back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in the long run, that would probably be the better way to go.
Yeah, and then you can just, you know, you can change your image, so you could do multiple different types of shirts, and eventually get to that point where your screen print, you know, you can wash those out and like redo that, and you can you just have to. I'd have to find a place wherever I'm at to maybe help me do that, because there's like a special machine, like a lighting with your emulsion. Like,
Okay.
it's like a.
There you go.
special
I'm
way
ready.
to
I'm
do
ready
it,
for
but-
some merch when it pops
Yeah,
up.
it'll be fun. It's just another investment, so I gotta.
Oh, I thought you meant
in-
investment of like me.
Well, it is. I mean, this is another thing of Mr. Beast. He always talks about his investors, like
Yeah.
the people that buy his merchandise are his investors, and that's the truth.
That
That's
is-
in
yeah.
that world, in the business world. That's what you're investing into the brand.
Right.
You know,
Especially if you have frequent people doing it, which I imagine, you know, the people that you're closest to will be the
Yeah.
ones that are the most frequent in
for
terms
sure.
of
Which has been the
investments.
cool part too, to follow. Like Facebook is every day. You know, like there's more and more people.
Find out who your real friends are.
Well, no, but like there are new people that are finding it, right? That
Yeah.
I'm not friends with. So like the first 100 people
was,
are like all my friends.
Yeah, I
you
was
know?
actually shocked because I shared your post yesterday of that I was coming on the podcast, and like I just did it because it was like, oh, it's cool, you know, like,
Yeah,
it's
well,
really fun.
I appreciate it, because that's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that's how you get the name out.
Well, and then a ton, like the last time I checked, I don't ever post things on Facebook. I don't do it very
Yeah.
often, so this might seem like a low number, but I had like 60, 70 people like it.
Yeah,
And that, to me, like that's a huge amount, because I just,
Right.
you know, it's not. If I'm on Facebook, I'm
Yeah.
like looking at articles.
well, and I know
watching
some of those
videos.
people like the page too.
That's awesome.
Like, because there was a good, probably like 10 people that knew, like, since you posted that.
Yeah.
It was like, I think a couple of them were like, maybe your sister even liked the page.
Sure.
Or like people that I think were maybe family or friends that.
But they, you know, they like it, and then you know,
But exactly,
I
that's-
have family that they're up in Wyoming, they're up in
Yeah.
North Branch, but that's
Well, and
that's
it's just
continually how it
interesting
gets
too,
out there.
because like there are Facebook ads. You can pay for different ads. You can pay for different, and I have played around with that some things. But one of the options on there essentially is to market to. You can have a post, so like this podcast, and I can market it just to the followers of CrazyFaceUno
Right.
and their friends.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
like people that are like within that community, right?
It's
So
just
it's like
like-
building that closer knit.
Well, it's
group
like
of people.
when you post on Facebook, you have the option, or like your profile, you can set your privacy status.
Yeah,
right?
to like who
I
can
gotcha.
see it and who can't. It's basically the same type of idea, but it's just interesting. Like it's just things that are like entering my world that I never thought about before.
It was just like we were talking about. I mean, right away, it's like learning by doing. You don't realize it's something you need to know until it comes up, and you're just like, oh crap! Like I gotta figure this out.
Yeah, probably very similar to like teaching.
Well, and the reason, because I listened to your conversation with Josh and about coaching, and so eventually I think we'll get into like teaching, but you know, it'd be special ed. But also like I listened to a lot of stuff you guys were talking about and thinking about how it applies to like teaching drumline and stuff.
Yeah,
So
there's probably a lot of like
there's
similarities
and
with what
you
we're
and I have
talking
had
about.
plenty of conversations.
Yeah.
There is a ton of carryover or similarities, overlaps.
Yeah,
You know, in terms of just that type of
yeah. Man,
experience.
I had a conversation with a couple friend, Katie and her boyfriend, Mike, and we were talking this weekend. And man, some of the different conversations we were talking about, it's such a complex, like, conversation, right? We all have like an idea of how but it's so complex, right? Like everything
Right.
that goes into coaching, everything that goes into the education system and the school systems,
Yeah.
and the way that people do, like that whole conversation. It's like we had a way that we, some specific things that we talked about, about pride within sports and like the challenges that we have with the lottery and these different things. And there's pros and cons
Yeah.
to every single one of them, and there's not one clear.
Which lottery were you talking about?
Just like you can basically like pick which school you want to go to.
Yeah, the open enrollment.
The open enrollment.
Yeah.
But then it turns into kind of
And that
like
was,
a lottery,
I found that one
basically.
really interesting. I found that part of the conversations really interesting when you guys were talking about that. Because that's basically, because I didn't know. Because I grew up in the suburbs, so I have little to zero experience with like inner city. So I had no idea that was the way that was run.
Same for me. Like I grew up in a very small town, 26,000.
I went to school in the same district that is attached to the building that we work at.
Right.
So I went to, and it's pretty big. So I had no idea that was a thing. It's like, no, you go, where you go. But in our districts, we have different problems with basically like gerrymandering, like drawing district lines. And so like when another district added a third high school, you saw them draw the lines and you saw the inequality of the three high schools, and you're like, how is this happening? Like, it's crazy stuff, and like so many other factors come in.
There's so many, and that's what I mean by it's so complex. It's just
Exactly.
there's not, you can't, man. It would be it'd be nice if we, could just be like, well, there's a clear-cut solution. This is how you do it, and that's how the politicians kind of spin things in a lot of ways. But but it's just not. It's not an easy thing. It's a long term. It's got to be long-term goals, and it's hard to get momentum on some of those long-term goals when you have new leaders. Because 10 years from now, if you had somebody that had the same path to get, they wanted to take something from point A to point B, and two different political figures were able to be aligned to see that through over that 10-year period of time, you would see drastic impacts, right? But the problem is that we have these like up, down, back, over, forth. Everybody's got a different idea, so every couple of years,
2 steps forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah, so it's just a slow process. There's pros and cons to that as well. Like that's
with a lot of it, when it comes to like teaching and coaching, I think there's a lot of like basic philosophies or just ideals or things like that, and that stuff I think you see line up a lot, and then after that, then all the specific factors start to come in. Yeah, and every single thing that comes into play after that, completely affects people's approach, and then you can have a lot of similarities in how people would view it based on this factor, A, B, or C, whatever. But the more you add on top of it, the more unique and individualistic it gets. But that's something that our field has helped a lot in terms of like coaching or just learning, teaching more in general. It's just how unique our field is.
Yeah. How did you get into drum? Because that's what you're a drumline instructor.
Yeah, I work with 2 different high school drumlines actually.
So I know you were a musician. You were into drumline. Did you tell us about that process of becoming, getting involved in drumline, getting involved in music to where you are now?
Yeah, well, because music is what led me to my current job, as is now too. I mean, it's all kind of interrelated, kind of in an interesting way. So the expectation as a kid for me was that you did band in middle school, right? And so for us, it starts in like 6th grade. And then, you do your like instrument selection. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's a pretty common thing in schools, band starts in 6th grade.
Sure.
And so I wanted to play the drums, and I knew that for a long time. And they said that, they strongly encourage or require that you have 2 years of piano experience.
Okay. Did they make you take, so when I was in band, 6th grade, same deal, or like 5th grade, you take this like little, our band director had this like little quiz or little test you did. Yeah. And it was like sounds and like a whatever, and then you were supposed to like mark it down, and then it kind of funneled you into specific areas of like, oh, you're like this type of like response to these sounds generally do well in this genre, like woodwinds or
Oh yeah, that
brass
section.
or like, and
instrument
you had to
family.
get I think a perfect on the like little quiz thing in order to be in like the drum like percussion.
Percussion. Yeah. No, we didn't do it that way. We actually had sit down interviews with the middle school band
That's kind of
directors.
cool though.
Yeah, and it was outside of the school day, so you had to go with your
Yeah.
parents. You had to sit down, and it's funny. My sit down was with the guy who I now teach one of the drum lines with.
Yeah.
So he was my 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, and 10th grade band director.
Wow, that's cool.
And so I've known him for a very long time. And
Yeah.
It definitely, he's an absolutely wonderful person, and he's a brilliant teacher. So I mean, at one point we can get into like how much influence he's had on me.
Yeah, I love
Having conversations with him now is great. You know, like
sure.
talking about teaching and just approaches and philosophies, like just asking.
And you can
questions.
probably see,
Oh, definitely.
like look back and see how he molded you or like
Oh yeah.
groomed you in that way.
Oh yeah, and he was probably my age now.
Yeah.
when
Isn't that crazy
this-
to think about?
Yeah.
Like just in general. Like,
Yeah, definitely.
that blows my mind all the time.
It's always funny though. It's like you remember something you did, and I was like, was I like that?
Yeah.
And he just laughs. He goes, yeah, you were. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry about that.
I don't do it. Yeah, there's definitely there's some people out there if you're listening. I'm just sorry.
Yeah, for all my teachers, yeah. It's not. We'll not get too much into it, but definitely, you know, I feel bad about some of it.
Exactly.
But yeah, so we had to do like a sit-down interview. But everyone in my family is also kind of expected to take piano lessons too.
Okay.
And so we started in 4th grade, and so I've been playing piano the whole time, and that's how I got into percussion. And that was just kind of like my identity in high school. Like that was kind of what I did. My closest friends were all in the band program and whatnot. And so I decided to go into music education.
Okay.
Which was, I wasn't sure. Even as a senior, like I knew music was my thing.
Yeah.
But I wasn't even sure if I wanted to do that. And, you know, having conversations, I kind of like talked into like, you know, follow your passion kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so I don't regret any of the experience. But when we get to the end of the story, you'll kind of see maybe why I say that. But so I went to the U of M.
Yeah.
And I got accepted to their music program.
Okay.
But I wasn't accepted to the school. So the only reason I got in was because I was accepted to the music program. And so that's what got me in. And then I auditioned for the drum line. U of M is in Minnesota. Go Gophers. Shameless plug there.
Yeah.
And that's
cool though.
I did it for 5 years.
Nice.
Took me 5 years to get a 4-year degree.
Nice.
It's just fine. It's whatever.
But
I remember
so it was music education.
it was music ed, and I remember the first audition for the Gopher drum line was like the most intimidating thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
Like I was there, and I was in terms of like some of the instruments not at the quality in terms of my playing as some of them are. And I remember calling my mom, and we just had a death in the family, and there was a wake. I was like, I want to leave. I just want to come to the wake. Like, and she's like, you need to stay. You need to do it. You're gonna regret not doing it.
Yeah.
And so I stayed and I did it, and I made it, and I made the bass drum section, which was great, and that's what I did. And it was great. I mean, it was like a whole little family.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a whole nother thing getting into like marching band, you know, especially Big Ten style and stuff. But
yeah, but those types of, I mean, the family aspect of things.
Those are my
playing
closest
soccer.
friends.
Yeah, playing soccer.
My closest friends.
Yeah, I was never on varsity. Like I never made a varsity team when I was playing. But it's just like you were so close to those people. Those are the people you hung out with. Those are the people you like spent your time with. Generally, like I went to a small college as well, so it wasn't like I hung out with a lot of different people.
For you, it's not a small
Right,
college.
right, but like, but yeah, those groups and like your experience and time spent with those people is invaluable.
It
Like,
defines my college experience.
Yeah,
Is really what it comes down to.
100%. I
And
mean,
to this
CrazyFaceUno.
Yeah,
You know what
exactly.
I mean? Like I legitimately.
I cannot tell you my drumline nickname. I can tell you one of them. I can't tell you the other one.
Okay, let's hear one of them.
6 was my
Six.
nickname. Yeah.
Okay.
So at my first year, there was 4 Erics on the drum line, and 3 of them were on the bass drums. And it was bass drums 4, 5, and 6 were all named Eric, and so the other 2 already had
Super six.
nicknames.
You were bass? That's what you played?
Yep, my freshman year was bass 6.
Okay.
I moved up to other higher bass drums later on.
Nice.
So bass 4 and bass 5, they already had other nicknames. So at first it was Eric 4, Eric 5, Eric 6, but then it was Sidebirds and Creeks. Those were their nicknames.
Yeah.
Already, and so they just kept on calling me Eric 6, and then eventually it's just 6.
Yeah.
And I only played bass drum 6 that first year, but I was called 6 my entire collegiate career. I still respond to it every once in a while, like if I see some of those people.
Well, when you got here, you called me Crazy Face. It felt natural. Like, it felt normal.
And see, I just said that because I didn't know it was an actual nickname.
It's funny, but like it got shortened in college too. Crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what up, Craze? What up, Crazy? What up, Crazy Face? Like, but isn't that how nicknames go? It's just like you get these like little pieces, and it's kind of fun. So you were bass. You were the 6th your freshman year.
Yep.
So you did 5 years in the band, and
it took me 5 years to finish my program. And
so were you in it each year or no?
Yeah, I did 5 years. Okay. 1 year was cut a little short. That's a story we don't need to get into. That's a story for like a 5-hour podcast. But yeah, so I did bass drum 6, I did 3, I did 2, and then my last year I did snare drum.
Okay. Cool.
What's interesting about, because eventually I think we'll talk about like the drum lines I teach and stuff. Because one of them is competitive, and the U of M is like Big Ten drumming. It's not competitive.
Yeah.
But it's like college. And so very, very talented players. But then like when we teach the competitive stuff, it's a completely different world. And so like DCI, if you follow any of those kind of things, those are like, that's like the NFL of marching bands and drum lines and stuff.
So I've got one of your videos up here from.
Oh yeah.
I think it'd be fun to like listen to, and you just kind of explain what's going on.
Yeah, I can.
But we can snare drum kind of like spurred that along.
Yeah.
These guys are not all of them are snare, right? Or
they have depending upon which one. No. They'll have the snare lines in front, and they have the bass line behind it.
Yeah.
And you'll hear the tenor line too. So this is I don't know which group it is. Footage of the Crusaders. So they're in the this summer they'll be doing the DCA like the.
But this is one of your groups. Do you?
No. This is just me. This is not my groups at all.
This is something separate.
Yeah, this is just like the best of the best.
Okay.
So yeah, you can play real quick.
I'm gonna go ahead and play it. It's not very long. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but we're not sponsored, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Well, and it's on Facebook. It's on the Big Firth page. Yeah, so this is like competitive.
Yeah, well, and you guys can't see, and you guys can't see on the video either, but they're like in sync, like that little ding ding ding.
That's the metronome.
They're
Oh yeah, I like this one because of how many splits they do. You can see like half of them are doing things with the other.
Yeah. Well, and like their foot movement, like they've got like footwork the whole way through.
Yeah, so
like little just bend in the knees, and I know that's part of.
Yep, it's called marking time, but it's how you because this is stationary. When they do their performances, they're on the football field.
Sure.
And they're moving.
So it's like they're walking
place.
right now.
Yeah,
it's like they're all in sync. Like it's like dancers. If you were to watch dancers, you can see they're all in line and they're all in sync.
Yeah.
And,
well, so you can see the music at the bottom of the page, and like this. When you like actually see their hands and like what they're doing, it's insane, and you're like, I have no idea what they're playing, and then you look at the music down below, and it kind of gives you an idea.
Yeah,
but
good luck trying to keep up with that. Like,
yeah, well, they have insane polyrhythms and crazy stuff like that. But what these guys do, and I think I mentioned it, but this is like basically like the NFL of like marching bands.
Okay,
is like what the talent level that these guys have. Like this is the highest level. These are like global competitions.
Yeah.
And they usually have it at TCF. They've had it there for the last couple of years.
Okay.
They'll go around the country.
Yeah.
And then do it at different football stadiums, usually college ones. But I mean, yeah.
So good.
And so this is the kind of writing that we do for one of the two drum lines I work with.
Yeah.
I try. I don't write anything nearly this good, but it's also a different talent level too. So like, we're doing the high school version of what this is, and so it keeps going. We can be done with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
But yeah, so like,
fascinating.
so that's the competition side of it, and that's like one of the groups I work with. But also like, there's like the entertainment side of it too, which is much more like what I did at the U of M.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's more like the entertainment side, and you can be entertained by this. You know, just like watching the NFL, you're entertained by it, but it's a different it's a different level. You know.
Yep.
But
For sure. So what does that? So then now we're to you kind of coaching. Did you kind of explain how you got into instructing, being a instructor from? You took piano lessons. You did that from 4th grade till 6th grade. You sat down.
Piano lessons was all through high school.
But you sat down, did the little interview with your band instructor that's now the guy you work with.
Yep.
You started band in 6th grade.
Yep. Played all the way through.
All the way through. Got to college.
Did music
college. Music ed. 5 years there. You graduated.
Student teaching is when things really changed for me.
Okay.
So student teaching and special ed, or not special ed, sorry. I'll have to do that eventually. Student teaching for band is what I think threw me into a funk.
Okay.
And I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do because the experience wasn't great. And the problem that happened was it ruined music for me. Music as a hobby, as an interest, as a passion.
Right.
Teaching band just made music a job, and it took a long time for me to like reconcile that, but eventually it came to the point where I didn't want my profession to ruin my favorite thing in the world, my passion.
Yeah.
And so it took a lot of time to kind of realize that. And
coaching is really like, it's very much a thing in coaching.
But coaching drumline is different than teaching band.
Yes.
And so I still get.
I just even mean on like my end of things of like being a wrestling coach.
Yeah.
It hasn't ruined it by any means.
But for some people, it heightens it.
It does, and it kind of changed it. Like you had mentioned, it takes it from a hobby, a passion, something that you enjoy, and it turns it into a little bit of like this is my job now, right? Like I don't have an option. This is something I choose to do. I enjoy it, but it shifts focus a little bit.
Because you're not, with the big focus and the big change is you're not the one engaging in the activity anymore. You're the one leading the activity.
Yes.
And so you have to have an amount of passion, and you have to like that side of it.
Yes.
And if you can.
Because it's different.
It's very different. It's the same, and it's completely different at the same time. Like, it's really weird, but like if you can't handle not being actively engaged in the activity, then you shouldn't be a coach and you shouldn't be a teacher. And that's where you see bad coaches and bad teachers.
Yes.
Or instructors. That's where you see the bad ones, is because they.
Not to get too far off this topic, like off what we're talking about, but isn't this like just fundamental to you can hear the birds chirping up there. Those are upstairs. That's
nice.
That's picking up pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, when you have people like you had said, people telling you even in college, and I had the same thing in high school, saying to follow your passions.
Yep.
Which is great. It's a great incentive. And like I do agree there is an element of that, because when you follow your passions, if you can fall in love with that process, then you never work a day in your life.
But
that's the whole concept.
But it's also different. Like if you told Brent, follow your passion, Brent's passion is creative writing.
Right.
That doesn't change for him.
No.
What engaging in creative writing doesn't change if he chooses to make that his profession.
Right.
Music, coaching, teaching, that changes.
It changes.
Because I'm not actively engaging in making
something you
music.
have to do, not something you want to do anymore.
Right.
In some ways, and not that you don't want to do it. It's just that it becomes a requirement, not a it no longer becomes a choice in some ways.
Right, and just the activity itself is
Right.
different. You're not there.
And it changes. Yeah, the way it looks. You're on a different side of things. You have to perform. You have to perform as in like achieve and like have success, because you have to teach. You have to get somebody from point A to point B. Otherwise, so it's like self-worth. You're reflecting on yourself as well as like the outcome and like the quality that you're producing, like in creating. It's like it's a whole thing. Like you can dive into that a lot. I mean, being on successful, drumline
teams or being on
Yeah.
what that looks like versus being on a successful wrestling program, what that means. And Josh and I kind of got into that a little bit of like you start to define and you start to shift your focus of what success looks like in some
definitely,
ways.
definitely.
And it's a must do thing, and people can say, well, that's just the mark of, you know, somebody that's not winning or whatever, but it's what keeps you going and keeps you coming back. It's what keeps you motivated. It's a mental shift, and it's a mental focus. And I think it's an evolving mental component, because just because that's where you're at that moment doesn't mean that that's where you'll be in a year or 2 years or 3 years. And you can shift that focus to be.
Or I mean, you can look over the past of the current or previous season, where you were at the start of the season.
Yep.
Versus where you are now.
Yep.
And that
that's the mark of a
made.
better coach, a better instructor, a better
And
like, teacher.
For the two drum lines I teach, one of them is very competitive based. It's competition.
Yep.
And so that one, you'll see the same types of things, and the things that you and Josh were talking about in coaching. That was all of that resonated with me, because that's what it looks like for competition based stuff.
Yep.
But the other one I do is entertainment. But the thing that doesn't change is when you're working on a program, or just even if you're not, engaging in competitions, because the one we do parades, we play at the football games, even just because you're engaging in that doesn't mean that you can't and don't need to set expectations, set a culture, talk about growth. What does success look like, even though you're not doing a competition? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that part stays the same. It's just, it takes on a little bit different. Because you're not measuring yourself against other people when you're doing it for entertainment.
Right.
But at the same time, we're at a parade and there's other groups there. And so that's what my students will do. They'll measure themselves against the other groups that are there.
Right.
And what does success look like in those types of ways.
And I think that that's important in some ways, because obviously I'm looking at it through the coaching perspective, like wrestling perspective, the sports side. But I think it's important to see where other people are that are at different levels than you, and to know what to strive for and to seek and to go after, right?
Right. Because I don't ever want it to turn into, I'm not good enough. We're not as good as these other people.
Yeah.
I never want my students to ever feel that way.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I get worried about in terms of like competition for music. It's different in competitive sports, because that's the goal of sports, is to compete. And so if you're going into, so for the competition based group, that's what they're signing up for, and that's what we're going, and that's okay. But like, I don't like that aspect creeping into the entertainment side. Like, we're not as good as these other people, because that's not the point of this group. It's a different thing.
I think that we can both agree, though, that the thing that kind of binds our two different, like, quote, coaching, instructing, coaching thing together is that Josh and I touched on it too, that the important thing is to see progress.
Yes.
And to see people progressing down the like path that we want to see. We all create little goals for ourselves, whether we do it subconsciously or not, or whether it's vocal or not. Like, you have an idea when you look at one specific individual in your drum line, you're like, you need to be here by the end of this, right? And like, or I think you can be here by the end of this.
Yeah.
Or, man, I hope you can, there's different ways to look at each individual thing, right? And but the goal is it doesn't change. In a team, you have the same things. You want to see your team progress in a certain direction.
It's a group and on an individual basis. What's interesting though is some people will ask, video all good?
Yeah, it's good.
Some people will ask, like, how do you have a competition for music? Because music is in general such a subjective thing.
Sure.
And then I just try to explain to them, like, it is and it isn't. The way you play music isn't subjective. Like, the best ways to play instruments, like it's called technique. Like, there's proven ways that are better and more conducive than others. And then after that, because in the competition world, like, some of it is like the composition of the show. Yeah. And so, like, we write the shows for one of the groups that we work with.
It's the showmanship part of it.
The showmanship is a big part. The performance of it,
how it evokes a feeling, how it evokes, like how it progresses and brings you along a storyline or whatever.
Because all the shows are based around like a theme or like a title, like an idea. Our show last year was, oh gosh, I can't remember now. Oh, artificial intelligence. Which I mean, how many other times have you seen what happens when robots decide to wake up and become autonomous, that kind of idea. And so it's not necessarily like the notes you're selecting, it's are you getting the ideas across? That's what they go for, like for composition. And so it is subjective and it's not at the same time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's-
So now how does this translate? So this whole part of your life, the music side of things, getting into you know, the school that you instruct. Drumline, coach,
Yeah,
drumline.
yeah.
The
words
so
are
many different
interchangeable.
ways. Yeah, I know. How did that interact with and like kind of blend itself with teaching and getting into working at the special education school that we were
I was asked to come back and work because I did the drumline for the high school I went to, which is the one that I teach at now.
Yeah.
With the teacher that was, you know, that had a sit down meeting in 6th grade with.
Yep.
And so I was asked as a freshman, because I was doing the U of M line, to come back and coach and help. You know, he was kind of running it, and I was there to kind of help. And that was in 2008. And I have been working with the group ever since. So I think it's been 11 years now. And now it's he, you know, the guy I work with, he does the administrative stuff. He schedules rehearsals. He makes sure we have all of our stuff, and I run the rehearsals.
Okay.
So I am the head instructor, but he's like the one in charge of the group. And so it's a really good dynamic for two people because, you know, he's a full-time teacher too. He's got the band program.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, another reason why I'm glad I'm not a band director anymore is just how much extra work is spent outside of the school day. It's insane what those guys do.
Yeah.
And so I totally get it. So he sets it up, I take care of it. And so I've been doing that group since 2008.
Sure.
And then the guy I was asked to come help out with the other group probably about 5-6 years ago now, because the guy that asked me to come over we were on the drumline at the U together. We've been close friends ever since. We write music together. We do our film competitions together. And so he asked me to come over and help with that group. And so we've been writing their show and working with them for 5 years.
Okay.
So like coaching drumline, I was always fine with continuing to do that because it was something extra, and drumline has always been fun. And even though I knew I didn't want to be a band director anymore, that stuff was always there. It was always fun.
Okay.
One of the things I was actually going to ask you, because we were talking about coaching, you're talking about teaching.
Yeah.
And one of the most interesting things, I've learned so much over the last few years, and one of the things that I finally realized is that how I needed to change my approach was because drumming and learning how to drum was never hard for me. It came very naturally.
Yeah.
Okay? And so I never had to work too hard to get it, to be good at it.
Sure.
You know, I'm not saying I'm amazing by any means. Like I'm not like those DCI
No,
guys.
but I understand what you're saying. I know.
And yeah, it was, you know, music. It came very, very naturally. And over time, like when I first started, I would get frustrated with the students because they weren't getting it as quickly as I expected because I was measuring everything up against myself.
Yeah.
Do you, as a coach, as
yeah.
coaching sports competitively, have you had that?
Yeah.
experience?
No, I have to check my patience
Mm-hmm.
a lot. Yeah, I mean it's the same because there's multiple elements to this. One thing that really will tick me off is like if I know you weren't paying attention and I've got to show it to you more than once.
Right.
That's gonna frustrate me real fast.
Right. But that's not about actually wrestling. That's just about paying attention.
Yes, absolutely.
If they
But then
watched the first time and didn't get it though,
Yep.
that's a completely different thing.
Yeah, it's really hard, and
Yeah.
it's so the part that, and it's finding it's adapting and adjusting to each individual student, especially with wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is kind of what Josh and I talked about this a little bit. I think with the way that we interact and the way that we encourage leaders to lead.
Right.
But it translates right into the sport the same way,
Yeah.
right? And so as you're coaching, knowing that, man, you have specific individuals that it just takes more time, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And it takes just different ways. Me, individually, personally, you want me to learn something, I need to know the big picture, right? I need to know where we're going, right? I need to
Yes,
know
you do.
the why.
Yes.
Why are we doing this?
Yep.
Cool. What are we trying to accomplish?
Well, but you need to know that if it's not instantly obvious to you.
Yeah.
Because we encountered
Correct.
this when we worked together.
Yep. There are some, and I'm not afraid to ask that question, right? But
No,
this
you're
is
not.
also how I express and how I coach, because this is the way I was. So my natural go-to is I want to tell you exactly why. So when I'm coaching and I have an underhook, you don't quite understand it, but if I'm talking about an underhook, why do I have this? What are the different avenues for
Yes.
this? And knowing the whole aspect of it,
Yes.
because it's a defensive tool, it's an offensive tool. It's a way to move. It's a way to stall. It's a way, which are all wrestling terms. It's like all sports things, but like these are all different things you should know. And I can tell you just one specific way, but I want to do all encompassing. I'm never short on words, right?
No, you're not.
Hence an hour and a half podcast that I would gladly be a Joe Rogan 3-hour podcast if I could.
Yeah.
But it's just time, and whatever. But
that idea right there, why?
the why.
The why, it's the understanding.
Why? Why not?
Jeez. Yeah. Why? That's what I do with drumline as well. And so with drumline, it's different because it's mostly a group instruction, and there's not a lot of time to really go one-on-one. But you can, but it's in the context of the group still. But one of the big things is I constantly am asking questions because I want them to understand. And the more I learned, and the better as an instructor I think I get, is because I start realizing, like, oh, this is why this is important.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, we'll get done, and we play with the met, the beat that you heard when we watch the videos. And if you're not in with the met, you're doing something wrong.
Right.
Because as drummers, like, you're expected to be perfectly in time, right? So,
yeah.
And so they'll get off the met. But there's reasons why you can get off. You can be playing too fast, you can be playing too slow.
Mm-hmm.
Like that amazing scene in Whiplash. Have you seen the movie?
No.
It's
I told
great.
you it's a movie buff. Go ahead.
I am. And so you stop the met, and like, why did we stop? Because we're off the met.
Yeah.
Okay. What were you doing? Were we
Right.
too fast or too slow? And so they'll talk and then say,
But
okay,
knowing and understanding which one you are is like a learning experience.
That's step one.
Right.
Okay. Are you too fast or too slow? Great. Now we know that. Okay. What do we do to fix it?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what a lot with music is knowing your tendencies. And it's same with, I assume with coaching too. Know your tendencies and know how to adjust from them when it comes up, because you have to do it on the fly.
Right.
You don't get to just stop.
Well, and that's your best
music.
athletes. Your best athletes, and I'm sure it's your best musicians as well, can adjust on the fly, right? Where they can know that this is coming, right? Know that they're in a predicament where it's maybe, so for wrestling, for instance, maybe it's you're in a match and a guy knows that you go to your underhook a lot and he counters your underhook, or he stays at distance and he stays away from you. So now you have to adjust on the fly. How do I force the action to get to where I want to go? Can you adjust mid-match where, man, this position that I want to be in isn't natural? But it's the adjustment. And I think that that's what's the same with music.
Exactly.
It's just being able to recognize, oh, this guy's doing this, which is stopping me from doing this, but I still want to do this. I can trick him into doing it from here. For you, it's, oh, I'm too fast. I need to slow down. I need to listen to the tempo, but also follow the music that I'm going along. How do I do that?
You gotta,
knowing how to adjust.
And like, so like the things will happen. It's like we're playing fast, but you're not playing fast enough. Right. And so this is just a perfect example because I think it really kind of lends to what you're talking about. And so you're slower than everyone else next to you. Okay. What do we do first? Okay. That's what I ask the students, and like I teach them, like, okay, bring your stroke height down. Okay.
Step by step.
So, start here. Okay. You're off just a little bit. Well, don't work so hard. Okay. Let's bring the stroke height down, 6 inches or so. And then you're on okay. So you're supposed to be playing like at a forte dynamic, which is like 12 inches. That's what you're supposed to be playing.
But that half a second that you're not hitting is
you're
causing you to be too slow.
To be slow. Okay, so
bring it
let's
closer
bring
to
it down.
the drum.
Okay, so bring it down.
Okay.
And then play in time, and then build up your strength.
Sure.
Your finger hand muscles. Like, let's build that up, and then eventually we'll get up. It's better to play clean and like not loud enough.
Right.
Than loud enough.
Quality over quantity.
Exactly.
And it's the same in wrestling.
Yep.
Quality over quantity. I would rather see you do I would like you to do drilling is huge, right? And it's the same thing. That's what
it's
practice.
Our warm-ups
It's
are.
a warm
Practicing technique.
Right. And you might do the same drill
over and over again. But it's those.
It's close. It doesn't quite look like that. Can
yeah.
you do that for the camera one
Yeah.
time? It's better than Trevor's fake drumming.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Trevor.
Trevor's gonna be on next week potentially.
Oh, that's
sometime.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's great.
He's in South Carolina, I believe. North Carolina, South Carolina.
Yep, South.
He'll be back
In the family.
this the end of the week. So
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah, so it's the same concept of
Well,
like
because
you
like
just
when you're
want
drilling,
guys
it's technique related, right?
right.
So you're teaching the technique.
Mm-hmm.
When and how do you apply the technique?
But people want to go so fast. So this is what you see in wrestling.
yeah.
People want to go full speed, right? Which I want to go full speed too, but sometimes you got to
Yeah.
slow down. Dude, I want you to focus on just getting your hands in the right place,
Yeah.
and you're going to get to this position, and you just slow it down. So you can go fast into this, and we're going to work our speed up. So you're going to get into this position, and then you can explode.
Yeah.
Right? But you've got to like just get the quality down. Understand that you're in the right position before you can fully go into
It's
it.
the exact same thing.
And it
I
becomes
see-
muscle memory, and
Yeah.
I'm sure it's the same in drumline.
It is. And when you say like everyone wants to go fast, like I just immediately laugh because it's exactly
Right.
what
Everybody
happens in
wants to go
music.
straight to what we just listened
exactly.
to. where-
Everyone wants to be playing as fast and as loud as they can. It's like no,
Yeah.
we call
all-
it hacking. Like if you came to a drumline rehearsal and you just came like before it actually starts.
Yeah.
It's chaos. Just everyone's doing whatever they want to do, and like they're playing so big, but they're not playing with good technique. Like there's so many things I can get into talking about arms, hands, fingers,
Sure.
stuff like that, and they're hacking.
Yep.
And they're just playing super loud, and it's terrible. And then we start, and then finally it gets into some
Yeah.
precision, and so I get on them quite
But
a
isn't
bit.
that just starting out and being new and being young and like I mean it's the same because
Oh, yeah.
I walk into the wrestling room before practice
yeah.
and generally there's at least 2, 3, 4, 5 guys that are just like messing around and like wrestling
And it's totally fine.
and yeah 9 times out of 10 it's your guys that are like you're in your first or second year
Yeah.
that are like they enjoy it, they're having fun, they're trying to figure it
there's
out,
Nothing wrong with it.
but they're hacking.
I want to remind you. Yeah, it's like,
You know?
like please remember what I taught you.
yeah like just because you're having fun and messing around doesn't mean you need to like do a different technique, because it's in those moments that you're creating habits that translate to performing.
And it takes a long time to break those
It
habits.
does. We all have them. I have them.
Oh, definitely.
I'm the first one to be like, to my wrestlers, like, I don't do this. I don't do this well when I wrestle, and this is why. Like, this is how it affects
Mhm.
this position.
Yeah.
Right. Learn it now. Take the time. Go slow. You don't have to like go all like crazy right now. You'll have a
Yeah.
chance to do that when we wrestle live, when we do our live performances, when you have your like live practices where it's like
Yeah.
getting ready for it. You'll have those opportunities to
Mhm.
let your skills shine. But just right now, just focus on the process.
Well, one of the things I tell my kids is when they're doing the hacking and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
it's always stuff they already know how to do. Like it's stuff that they learned. It's stuff,
Yeah.
And so what I tell them is that you're never gonna get any better if you don't do the things you can't do. If you don't practice the things that you're not good at and you
Yeah.
can't do.
Exactly.
But this thing, you're not good at it.
But it's not-
You
it's
don't
fun.
know how to do it.
Yeah. It feels clunky, and you're like, ugh.
Right. But at the same time, so when
But
you're
you don't
teaching
get
these
good at
things,
it if you don't.
you have to learn it, and you have to do it slowly. You have to take it
Yes.
step by step, and you
Yeah.
have to build it up.
Yep.
And that's why you'll get pushback, and that's why some people don't like it as much because, and this goes for anything. This goes for
Anything.
teaching too.
Yep.
I had a student this
It's
last year that
monotonous.
really pushed back because on the academics that we tried to work with the student on, that really pushed back just because they didn't know how to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
it's exhausting
Yeah.
to learn how to do things that you don't know how to
It
do.
is.
And
And
that's
it's not
why
as fun. It's just
Exactly.
until you know it, and then it's fun.
It's not
It's
fun.
putting in the work. And all your best athletes, all your best musicians, all your best of whatever industry
In
that
anything.
you're looking at
Yeah.
are the ones that they bite down on that bullet and they just go for it. And they put
Yes.
in the work that needs to be put in and do the work that nobody sees, nobody knows, nobody hears about,
it's
talks
patience through the learning process.
about. Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that I think you usually find to be the most successful.
Absolutely. How has, I mean, because we're similar age, so we experienced growing up in a world without internet or the internet that we have now.
Yeah.
How has technology and just technology in general, I guess, changed the music world in the sense of like, man, you can go on YouTube right now and find a lesson on drumming, right?
Yeah. Well, and there's
Pros and cons to that, I'm sure, but like,
there's a lot of content. There's a lot of good content. There's a lot of bad
same
content.
for wrestling. There's no reason that you can't go home and excel faster than I'm willing to teach you.
Yeah.
Because you can go home, you can learn, you can hear, you can listen to, you can watch live matches, you can watch band competitions, you can watch drumline competitions.
Yep. Well, that's the big benefit. The benefit is access to music in general. I mean, you remember what, LimeWire?
Yeah. Yeah.
Trying to download an album.
Yeah.
You know, the album.
Spotify replaced that, but and I know that Spotify gets a bad rap from musicians in some ways, but it at least allows you to make some sort of money off of it. I know that it's not. It doesn't. They don't treat their musicians the best. Or
it's better
whatever,
to make money off Spotify than have people just illegally get it.
Right.
You know.
And I think that's what that's allowed people to do. And I think over time, you know, everything's evolving and changing. So their model will change, I'm sure. They'll charge more, something will happen, and whatever. But there'll be a new technology out there that replaces them at some point in time. And
I'm sure there will be.
You know, and so whatever. But I just know, like, for wrestling in the sports world, there's really zero excuses, and we push it even now. Like, something I brought up of, you know, at the school that I coach at for next year, of being like, why not put out, one of the big things that we have is, like, if you miss a practice, you missed everything that we talked about that day. One of the things that I struggle with most is having people miss a practice, come back, we're trying to build on that, and now I have to go back and teach you from square one, which then takes me away from everybody else that's trying to learn the move that we're at that day.
Yeah, attendance issues, that happens everywhere.
So, but using technology to combat that, and hey, why don't we just create, you're doing the exact same demonstration that you do for everybody that you're doing, maybe you film it while you're in practice.
Well,
and you put it up for all of your athletes to view. And hey, this is the technique that we're working on this week. If you miss practice, you need to know this by the time you come in. Watch these videos.
That's one of the biggest things. Is technology as a tool. As a tool to support the instruction, teaching, coaching, however you want to look at it.
Do you think it's helped in drumline? And
definitely. I don't use it as much.
Sure.
We use the metronome. I'm a very hands-on person. And so in the world of drumming, it's you're creating music already. So it's pretty, you know, we use the Met, we have the music, we use softwares to create everything that we use.
Sure.
But the guy I work with, if people are gone, he will record and send videos. So like it still happens.
Yeah. But it's such a nice thing to do where, you know, when I was growing up, I didn't have that option.
We had no options at all.
I just spent more time in the room, which is pros and cons of that too. You know, like I spent more time just, whether it was conditioning or whatever it was, like you put in your time and you put in your work.
Well, I was playing piano all through middle school, high school. It's so different than now. If I wanted to learn something, I'd have to learn it pretty much by ear. And I'm pretty good at it. I'm actually probably a better piano player than I am a drummer, which a lot of people don't know because no one sees me do music pretty much ever. Play, you know, they know that we talk about it and stuff. But so you had to learn by ear. Versus now, you can just go on YouTube and you can, or on Google, you can find sheet music, or you can find the popular thing now is like those scrolling videos, where it'll show you the keyboard and then it'll have the notes. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And so that'll teach anyone just really easily how to play a song on the piano.
Cool.
So,
that's interesting.
Yeah. Very easy to use.
Really cool. All right. Now I want to know about teaching. So how you got into teaching, kind of what led you that direction.
The movie theater, actually.
Movie theater.
Yeah.
So let's start there.
I started working on a movie
theater. Full
theater.
circle, man. Yeah, music, movies, and teaching. Those are like your trifecta of power.
That's just me in a nutshell. But But
they go hand in hand, which is really cool.
Yeah, my first job in high school was at the local movie theater.
Yeah.
I started there in 2006. I remember.
Told you he's a movie buff.
I love movies. I was gonna say like almost ashamedly, but I'm not ashamed at all of my deep love for movies. The only time it becomes an issue though is like people like, do you talk about anything else? I was like, yeah, we can talk about the twins. Or we can talk about music. Like I used to get like nervous about that, like where people like you don't like to talk about anything else. I was like, well, it's just like anyone in their passion, though.
Yeah, just talk about the things you care about, and
Yeah.
and you can. I mean, dude, sports. I love sports, right?
Mhm.
Like I could talk about sports all day long. It was really fun to talk to Josh about 30 minutes of fantasy football, and
Well, that wasn't just fantasy football. That was football, period.
football period.
Yeah.
However, like it just limits your audience, and some people just don't find that interesting, and I get
That's
that.
fine.
Like that's fine.
Just-
But I think you can relate to everything, right?
Right.
Like even talking about like sports and music, they're
Right.
extracurriculars. There's similarities. It's the
Yeah.
coaching piece,
Yep.
the teaching. You're a teacher. I was an EA, an
Mhm.
education
I
assistant.
did the EA part as well.
But yeah,
So
go
yeah,
on.
so I started working in the movie theater in 2006, and to this day, I'm still technically employed there. And I might actually work some shifts over the summer. I'm getting a little stir crazy, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. I'm getting a little
What am I gonna do now?
yeah, drumline down. That's kind of calmed down until
Nice.
August. And so after the student teaching thing, where I kind of realized I didn't want to do that, I kind of dragged my feet and just kind of worked at the theater full time. And
Yeah.
the school district that we work for has a program that sends their students to work at the movie theater,
Right.
which you well know about. But
Yep.
and so it's great. And so they would come in, and the person there would have me kind of work with them.
Yeah.
And so finally, my dad was really kind of really pushing me to get a job.
Yeah.
You know, he was, because I was living at home.
Yep.
And I was getting to the end of my 1 year free rent post college.
Yeah.
And that's how my parents did it, and I love them for it. I think it's great. Said you can live here for a year for free.
Yep.
And after that, we'll start charging you rent.
Yep.
It's not that we don't want you. It's
So
just
figure it out.
this is how the real world works, and I
Absolutely.
do thank them for that.
It's a good life lesson for sure.
Definitely. And so he was really pushing me to get a real job, and the person there was like, well, why don't you come work at the school that we both work at now? And so I started working there as an EA for a few years, and then talking with our program administrator when she learned that I had an ed degree already.
Yeah.
She really pushed me. She's like, you can be a teacher.
Yeah.
Like, you can do this. Like, just, you have a license. All you have to do is get this
Do your
different type of
your
license.
special education direction.
Yeah. So he's like, get enrolled in a program. And immediately, like, we have a ton of teachers, especially now, that have just started their first license in special ed.
Yeah.
And so it takes a little longer for them to get hired. But
as
for
long
me,
as they're enrolled,
as long as they're enrolled, they're fine. But for me, I already have an ed license, and so that immediately puts me in a good spot.
right.
So I got the job, and I finished my third year. And yeah, it's been a trip.
Yeah.
It's an interesting job, but I do find a lot of joy in it.
Mhm.
For as stressful and as physical and challenging as it is, I find a lot of joy in it, because it's something. There's certain things I'm very bad at with my job. I just things I'm like paper. I'm very bad with paperwork. I need to get a lot better with that. But
Yeah.
there are aspects of the job that I know.
Which unfortunately is a larger part of your job than
It's
anybody would
probably
ever
about-
want it to be.
Yeah, it's probably about half. It's probably about half of it.
Yeah.
But there are parts of the job that I've learned that I'm very good at.
Yeah.
And so finding something you enjoy
Mhm.
that you have talent in, that doesn't take away from your passions and stuff.
Absolutely.
Finding that balance was really nice. And it just happened to work out.
Yeah.
From working at the movie theater.
Honestly, Eric, I started working in Eric's room when I was a sub. I worked
Mhm.
through, Brent mentioned it. I did the same kind of path that Brent did, I guess.
Yep.
I worked in the special education world for a little while. I left the district that I was with before. It was just so far away. It was like 45 minutes. And,
Yeah, it was a long time.
you know, it was just like,
Especially in the Twin Cities area.
yeah, I was just like, I can't keep doing that anymore. And,
Mhm.
just some different things. But anyway, it was like, well, I'll just sub and I can work in the same industry, you
Mhm.
know. I'm working in special education. I just sub from place to place, and knowing the subbing world, it's very a needed area just in general.
Yeah,
Like the
definitely.
people you're never really like lacking a job. I never had a day where I could wake up and be like, there's no place for me to go today.
Yeah, if you
know?
wanted
Like,
to work.
if I
you
wanted to
were
work,
gonna
I could work. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could work every day of the week, you
Yep.
know, except for Saturday and Sunday because schools aren't open. But
that's beyond the point.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I started out that same direction, but I, 2 weeks into the school year, I started
Less than 2
subbing in your classroom,
Mm-hmm.
163, baby.
Yep.
And that was my entry, and I fell in love with your classroom. I fell in love with the school district.
You came at a time where we
already-
needed you.
I already had my trainings, and
Yeah, I remember when we found that out.
yeah.
Sly guy.
Uh,
He conveniently didn't tell us that he was trained until randomly after like a month of working there.
Yeah. So our job is physical, like Eric had mentioned, and they haven't really mentioned too much about this, but I have said that it's a level 4 setting, which just means there's a higher likelihood of physical behaviors.
With the federal settings, it's all about the percentage of the day spent in or out of the general classroom. So
Okay.
setting 4 is 100% of the school day spent in a special ed program.
Gotcha.
And it could be it's usually off-site. So that's
Yeah.
what we are. So setting 3 is like,
Integrated a little bit more.
Yeah,
that's what I
setting
worked in
3
before.
yeah, setting 3 I think it's like 75 to 100% or something like that. So you
Yeah.
can still spend 100% of your day not in the general classroom, but you could still be in like the special ed services housed by that high school.
Right.
So the intermediate district that we work for, we have 15, 17 member districts. They send their kids to us.
Yeah.
So the federal setting is all just based about the amount of time spent in the general classroom.
Gotcha. Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. I don't know if I've ever been explained the level 4 setting in that way.
It was never explained to me. I had to kind of like figure it out and then finally have a conversation where it was explained to me. I might be getting some of it wrong, but that's the way that I understand it.
Yeah, which it does make sense because there are, where we work, like there are definitely times when we're like, why is that kid here? But that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now that explains that process a little bit more.
Right.
Just because a lot of our students have the possibility or the likelihood or have the track record for being physically violent, being aggressive towards staff, towards other students.
Yeah, and those are what we experience a lot of those. But oh hey bud, some chance.
Chances moving around,
And
finding a
it's
new
not
spot.
there you go. And it's not necessarily all the kids. It's like some of those kids that we wonder like why do we have them? It's their school district didn't have like the things that they need, access to. Even people could be part of the services that they don't have access to.
Right. Yeah, because we have access to social workers, to speech pathologists, to
There's no shortage of
occupational
services.
therapists, to autism spectrum specialists, to there's just a wide variety of different people within our building that provide different services,
And, like
which is awesome.
It's unique.
Very unique.
You're
And I
every
think our
single
school,
day.
I think our district does a really great job. Every district you can pick apart, right? But I think we do a
every
really
job
great.
you can pick apart.
Yeah.
Every boss you can pick apart. Every coworker you can pick apart.
Yep. But
That-
I think
that
that they
doesn't
do a really great job. And from my experience with working for a few different, districts and places, and from my subbing to different jobs that I've had, I think that our school district did a really great job and does a really great job in doing what it does. Yeah, but it's just interesting. So how we got on this track was, I was just saying, PCM, which stands for
Professional crisis management.
Professional Crisis Management, is our
I'm an instructor.
it is our Eric is an instructor. It is our hold. So if a student is to get physically aggressive or continuously be aggressive towards staff, students, their surroundings, self-injurious behavior, so on and so
There's a wide
forth.
variety of reasons of why it's needed. But
Yeah. We are trained to become hands-on, which is just our legal boundaries and framework for how we can protect them, how we can protect our staff, and how we can protect our students.
Yep.
Basically.
Yep.
And so I was trained because I worked for a different school district beforehand. I was still within my allotment, but as a sub, you just you don't come into a school and be like, "Hey, I'm PCM trained."
Well, and you were the first sub I think that we had ever encountered that happened to have been trained.
Right.
And so when that happens, you were already uniquely qualified to work in my room especially at that time.
Yeah.
And that made you even more uniquely qualified and needed at that point, really needed to help out in some ways in that classroom. And so it's just Oh, we were so mad at you when we found that out.
Yeah, because I had waited like 2 weeks before I really brought it up, and so I was like
Yeah.
2 weeks in, and I finally had kind of like let that one slip, but it worked out. It was great, and I ended up just applying. You have to put in a certain amount of hours, and ended up getting
And that was
hired on. I've been there for a year and a half.
Officially, yeah, a year
Officially,
and a
but I've
half.
been there for
It's
a
like
couple
pretty much
years
2
now. Yeah, because pretty much that entire school year and this last entire school year, and several years prior to that. So it's been kind of my industry. The last several years. With that said, there are some changes coming down the pipeline for me and my family, and which is going to require me to put in my resignation.
Yeah.
And I thought it would be appropriate. I already drafted up the email, but I thought it would be appropriate for me to just go ahead and hit send on this email while sitting with the person that I first came into an intermediate school district 916 with. And so here we are. I'm just going to go ahead and send this off. So
I don't
officially
I don't think it's anything that they're not
ready
shocked
for.
Or, they
but I haven't spoken to them, and I haven't done this. Honestly, it's been a process, and just things have finally happened. So there it is. I have officially resigned from my
that is a bummer
position with the school district, and this is why when you've heard me bring different people on, like Josh and myself, was saying like currently work for, because I've known this is coming. There's some changes that are coming down the line, and just kind of finalized about a week and a half ago, and so.
How am I gonna get back on the podcast when you're down there?
Hey, I do. Well, you're gonna have to come to where I'm living.
Just to be on the podcast?
To be on the podcast. I think that that's fair, because I want to see your face.
That's
so
true.
You need to
That's
come
fair.
down. However, I do have the opportunity to, the ability to do things over the phone, and I did that with Todd Waddington, and we can make that happen. So, hopefully, it won't be the last time you're on the podcast for sure.
I would definitely hope not, but
yeah, we got into the education world a little bit.
Didn't talk too much about movies.
No, but I want to know. Can you spout off your top 3 movies?
I thought you would be asking this. I suppose I can. I usually don't have like a list because
That's fine. You can name. I mean, up to top 10, right? So if you've got 10 movies, you can be like, these are in my top 10.
Pretty much anything by Christopher Nolan is a win for me.
Examples.
My number one movie is probably The Prestige.
The Prestige. Okay.
Have you seen that one?
I have seen it.
It is utterly fantastic. You learn something new every single time you watch the movie, like some little detail.
Yeah, I need to watch it again though.
And Christopher Nolan is
the story of my life. Is I watch movies and I'm like, I don't remember it, but I watched it.
Well, and that one, when you get to the end of the movie, it really requires you to pay attention. I love movies where you don't have all the information until the end. And like Christopher Nolan, he's obsessed with time. And so like all of his movies have some relation of time, except for maybe the Batman movies, but even then. And so he also says everything you need to know about my movies is in there. And so when you watch The Prestige, you know the ending, and you go back and watch, you're like, wow, like that really was there, like that was there, that was there, that was there. So I love that movie. I could watch that every month.
So Prestige, definitely up there.
I love David Fincher movies, but my favorite is not one most people think. I think his best movie is Zodiac.
So Prestige, Zodiac.
Yeah, Zodiac is so fascinating because just the Zodiac killer stuff I think is fascinating to begin with.
This one, so.
And the movie is about the guys that were trying to capture him, and the guys who were trying to capture him were so obsessed with what was going on, and you as the viewer become as obsessed as the characters in the movie. So it's a really interesting experience watching the movie, because the movie ends and the first thing you do is you go on Google and you start searching, did they actually never find the Zodiac killer? Like, that's how good the movie is.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. And then keep going.
I usually say The Usual Suspects. I love that movie.
Oh, that's the movie?
Yeah.
The Usual Suspects?
You've ever seen it?
No, I have no idea.
It's good.
Who's in it?
Kevin Spacey.
Okay.
Which I was going to ask you about that. Kevin Spacey, Benicio del Toro, Stephen Baldwin.
Here's your chance. What are you going to ask me?
Well, So, because I figured you were going to ask me about my favorite movies, and
Yeah.
Usual Suspects and LA Confidential are usually at the top of my list.
Okay.
And when the Kevin Spacey stuff came out,
Mm-hmm.
my twin brother, who's a brilliant guy, he sent me an article because he knew that a couple of my favorite movies of all time were Kevin Spacey movies.
Okay.
And he's in them. And so I was reading the list. It's like, can you appreciate the art of someone that most people consider to be a monster? Like, can you separate those two? Like, based on what he did, I was like, well, I don't know if those can be my favorite movies anymore because of who he is as a person. It was a fascinating article, and I wish I had access to it.
I tell you what, we are at 89 minutes
Yeah.
and 16 seconds and counting.
Yeah.
So we will have to save that thought for the next podcast.
Yeah.
So the next time you're on, you got to remember that one. You got to ask me that question.
I will.
And then our listeners can be ready for it.
Sure.
Guys, we got to end things now. I am so grateful to have you on the podcast, man. I really appreciate it. I love all the things that make you who you are.
Thank you, man.
Music, teaching. It's been an honor to get to know you and to call you a friend.
Yeah, man.
And
I'm
I'm
with you on that.
excited. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Eric. Appreciate it. Love you, man.
Love you too. Thanks, bud.
And we'll see you next time.
All right.
All right. See you later. Bye. That was it. Goes by fast.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
you're saying that 90 minutes really does go by
It-
quick.
I
I
could
couldn't
legitimately.
finish that. You gotta sit that down. I can only have a sip. I was like, oh man, that is strong.
Strong. What are you talking about?
I just
You're
it's
knocking
early
my
in the
wind
morning.
fan on the ground, dude.
Oh, you got your video still going.
Woo! Hey, if you're still watching with an hour and 30 minutes in, you get a little bonus material. Okay? Bonus.
Lord of the Rings, those are up there. Those
All
are
right.
movies.
Keep going.
Oh, jeez. The Dark Knight. It's like the greatest
Oh,
comic
Dark
book movie
Knight.
ever made. I'm a sucker for The Social Network.
It's good. And that process is good. Interesting.
I want, like, I heard they're making a movie off Facebook, and like, this is gonna be the dumbest thing ever. And you watch the movie, you're like, oh my god, this movie is amazing. Tarantino films are great, although I get made fun of because I say my favorite is Reservoir Dogs, and most people are like, why? Pulp Fiction's way better. I think I just like the
I haven't seen either one of those, I don't think. Reservoir Dogs, I've seen like the clips because it's like them skateboarding, right?
No.
See, I'm off. I don't know my movies.
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino. He's a good one.
Let's see. I clearly haven't seen that one.
Steve
Come on, there's skateboarding in Reservoir Dogs.
No, Reservoir Dogs is about a heist.
Oh,
Yeah, you think like Lords of Dogtown?
that's what I'm thinking of. Reservoir Dogs.
The
Dogs
word dog got you all mixed up.
I know. Hey, so have you guys seen the up here? I got a little. Is that? It's not gonna be backwards on the video, is it?
I don't.
I feel stupid, but it looks backwards right now.
It might.
That actually says "do good," not "odd boog." So do good, not og boog, bood. All right, guys. Thank you. This was exciting. Eric, what do you got to say?
Thanks for having me on. It's been real, man.
More. Give us one last movie. Must see. Everybody should see it, whether you like it or not.
Saving Private Ryan.
That's it. Go see it if you haven't seen it.
Go see
Saving
it.
Private
10 years ago.
Ryan. Bye.
Bye.